promotion. You'll flatten your stomach in weeks, not months. We guarantee it.
Before I started using the Abdur system, I was really unhappy the way I looked. Ever since I started using the Abdur system, I started seeing immediate results, and I feel so much happier and more confident in everything I do.
These machines cost up to $8,000. The Abdur does the work of all these machines. Millions have sold for 5 payments of only $29.95. But if you call now, we'll lower the price to 5 payments of only $19.95. That's a $50 savings. Plus, you get the Abdovix nutritional guide and motivational video free. We guarantee you'll lose at least 2 inches in just 10 days or your money back. So call now.
This is CNN.
I'm Judy Woodruff in Washington, picking up our coverage of America's new war. You are looking at scenes of the Pentagon where cleanup and recovery efforts continue this Monday, September 17th, 6 days after last Tuesday's fateful tragedy. Aaron Brown in New York.
Judy, thank you. As you take a look at the scene in downtown, not far from the Ground Zero area, the hard hats, the construction workers, so much to do on this Monday morning, Monday afternoon, as America and New York gets back to work, gets back to business. The business of business today has been so focused on Wall Street, the Dow down 475 points, NASDAQ down 72. It has been worse. The markets have come off their lows, but we have a long way to go in the day. It certainly was an opening on Wall Street unlike any other. Wall Street has seen many remarkable days, days after crashes and the like, but no day quite like this day, where the foundations, the literal foundations of the market downtown have been tested as they have been tested, unlike they've been tested at any time before. We should go down to the stock exchange and get not only the numbers, because this is one of those days where the numbers tell but a portion of the story of Wall Street. Amanda Lang is there. Good afternoon, Amanda.
Good afternoon, Aaron. It was, as you say, an historic day. Market sliding at the outset. That was expected given the delay in the trading on this market. Also historic. Expected decline. Sliver of good news here. We're bouncing off the lows of the morning. The Fed rate cutting this morning, that surprise 50 basis point rate cut, not helping particularly, at least not for stocks. It will mean that borrowing costs for businesses and consumers are now at their lowest level in more than 9 years. Let's have a look at some of the numbers. The Dow, well, the low on this market down 629. We're down 473. The NASDAQ at its low level off 109 points. It's now off just 71. The Dow hasn't closed below 9,000 since December 21st, 1998. We flirted with that level today. The NASDAQ hasn't closed below 1,600 since October 1998. We watched the advanced decline line, and we're seeing decliners, that is, falling stocks, beating advancing stocks by 5 to 1 on the New York Stock Exchange. Losers on the NASDAQ beating winners 4 to 1. Volume, already 1 billion shares at the NYSE. That is extremely heavy volume. Some of the sectors we're watching, as expected, airlines under pressure today. American Air down 11, United 11, Delta shedding $14, U.S. Airways off 5, Northwest down 6. Related to that, Boeing and United Technology, they make parts for airplanes. They're getting hit, and they make as well components. Boeing is down 5. It's a Dow component. It makes the planes. Airlines likely to cut back on orders is the expectation. United Technologies, which is losing 10, also a Dow component, stands out as one of the biggest losers on the Dow. It makes engines, but defense companies higher. You might expect that. Raytheon up more than 5. Northrop Grumman 13 to the upside. Lockheed Martin getting 4.5. And insurance stocks, another group we were expecting to see under pressure. Many of them commenting on how this tragedy will affect them. Most insurers say that war exclusions that are written into most policies are not applicable for the September 11 events. MetLife stock is down 2 today, AIG 4, Allstate losing 1, Cigna down 4, Aetna off just 60 cents. Aaron, back to you.
It was interesting to me when you were talking about the volume. Obviously, there's this enormous surge of activity on the street, but one of the things it said to me is at noon, 1 billion shares traded, and the electronics are holding up. The systems are working.
As a test of this market's capacity to handle massive volume, we'll remember that the last big test was October 1987, and the market failed that test. Arguably, many changes made after that. It's worth making the comparison because at that time the market, of course, lost 22%. Today's decline by historic levels or measures is not significant. It's hard on some stocks, and there's no question about that. But this is not a precipitous decline when measured in that context, and certainly the technology here is holding up.
Amanda, thank you. The market is down, the Dow down 473. 4 hours of trading left to go. We'll keep an eye on that and keep it on the screen outside the exchange. And this early afternoon, Bill Hemmer has been watching people trying to get to work amid all that is going on down there. It is not far from the exchange to the Trade Center site. Bill, good afternoon.
Aaron, good afternoon to you as well. I want to give our viewers a better perspective from what we've been seeing thus far today. We are on Broad Street, Aaron, away from the stock exchange. If you go down the street here and look down to that intersection, about 6 a.m. this morning when the first Staten Island ferry commuters came over, this is the street they walked up and toward us, and you can see the security continues to be tight. The area is marked off. There's police there, state and local as well. And off to the left, you can see a Humvee that's been operated by the National Guard with a strong presence here today. If we go further up Broad Street, and we can take you up this way here, the New York Stock Exchange will be off to your left side. The front facade with the American flag draped in front of it. And Aaron, as you were talking about, some of the systems, the telecommunication systems here, seem to be operating quite well. And a big part of that are these trucks right here, the Con Edison company here. They've been here since last week, again, laying a number of lines, you know, power lines and telecommunication systems, especially the fiber optics. We are told that some of these lines have been laid in a temporary fashion. They'll come back later at some point and make them a bit more permanent. But construction on Wall Street, along with state and local police and the National Guard, is a sight that no one has ever seen in this part of New York City before. Now, inside the New York Stock Exchange, talking to a couple traders who come out for a bit of a break. Very interesting stories. Many of them are somber and quite emotional at this point, is to be well understood as well, given what has happened over the past week and knowing they have not seen their colleagues and co-workers since Tuesday of last week when those two buildings came down. One trader told me there's 5,000 people working there today, Bill, and there's 5,000 stories that go along with them. Another guy said he was just all talked out at this point. But the mood continues to be one of a bit somber, and especially earlier today when most people showed up for work prior to the opening bell. They said the first couple of hours, everybody talked about it. But once that opening bell went down, it was all back to business. And again, that's what we're seeing at this point. More from Wall Street coming up shortly, Aaron.
Bill, thank you. It's good for our viewers to remember that in the World Trade Center towers, there were dozens, literally, of financial services companies. I can't imagine there are many people on the floor of the exchanges today who didn't know someone who is missing now among the 5,000 missing. It is more than just they haven't seen their colleagues or they haven't been at work or they were nervous about the day. They are grieving on the street today. Everybody in the country is keeping track of the market. Our Boston Bureau Chief Bill Delaney in Boston now with an update on things there as it looks. Bill, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Aaron. Well, at our outpost of the world economy up here in Boston, very much a sense of business as usual. There has to be a particular intensity, a particular edge to the trading here, but you don't really see it on the surface here at the exchange itself. People are going about their business. This is a very different geographic location, of course, than being as close as the New York Stock Exchange is to the World Trade Center. So a sense very much here at the exchange itself of business as usual. Out on the street, though, we are here in the heart of the financial district of Boston. I was out this morning, particularly at a Charles Schwab investment office just around the corner. And that's where you're picking up a lot of caution, a lot of mixed emotions, a lot of uncertainty as people stand around peering at computer terminals trying to decide where this is all going. Most telling me they were not in a big selling mood just yet, and a few telling me they were spying any opportunities that might be out there. So up here in Boston, caution, I think, seems to be the watchword, but a general sense that this thing is going to rebound. Now, I have with me the chairman and CEO of the Boston Stock Exchange, Ken Liebler. Ken, what is your sense of the mood here?
Well, I think the mood is remarkably calm here. Boston, and particularly the Boston Stock Exchange, is a great institutional community. We cater to a lot of professional investors. And I think the mood under the circumstances is remarkably positive and calm.
In fact, Ken, some of the traders here will tell you this is a fairly average day if you take away a couple of sectors which are plunging.
That's absolutely correct. There are really three sectors of the market, the insurance sector, the airline sector, and financial services, which have very clearly been impacted by the events of the past few days. And the stocks in those sectors are down considerably. If you take those three sectors out, though, what you have is really a fairly orderly decline of not great magnitude.
How important was the rate cut?
I think the rate cut was a good psychological boost. I don't think from an economic standpoint it has any particular meaning in the near term. But I think psychologically, I think what people saw is the willingness of the government, particularly the Federal Reserve, to come in and do what's necessary to support the markets.
How about volume? How much trading is going on up here?
Volume, as one would expect, is heavy. Our volume is running at about twice our normal rate.
Now, everyone here is in the financial industry. Everyone here has connections throughout the financial industry, of course, including in New York. Are you picking up any sense of people being directly, personally, emotionally affected by all this?
Absolutely. We have a number of traders here who communicated directly with traders in New York, in the World Trade Center, as well as some of the firms that have suffered real losses of life. So that clearly is a factor in our activity today as well.
How important psychologically was it just to get back on the board today, to open this place up?
I think it was absolutely essential. I think now, once we've gotten through today, I think people will be in a position to assess the ongoing economic impact of this. But getting back to work, getting back to some semblance of normalcy, I think for everyone who works in the financial district was absolutely critical.
What happens next? What is your sense? You're a guy that used to be president of the American Stock Exchange. Where is this going in the next few days?
Well, I think we're going to have a fairly volatile market. I think we'll get some strong rallies. Those rallies might create also some sharp selling. So I think you're going to see volatility. Markets will move around 3%, 4%, 5% a day, perhaps for as much as a week until the outlook economically looks a little clearer.
What would your advice be to the average investor? Over at Charles Schwab, they were saying don't look for short-term gains. Take the long view, which, of course, they've been saying for in good times and bad. What is your sense of that? I think it's absolutely crazy to try to time this market and buy on the dips or sell on the rallies. Professional investors don't believe they can do that. I don't think individual investors have much chance of doing it. I would advise people to remain calm, and if they owned a stock yesterday that was a stock that they were happy with, not much is different today. Ken Liebler, CEO of the Boston Stock Exchange, thank you very much indeed. So really some reassuring words up here. Aaron, a sense of normalcy, as normal as anything can be in these times. Back to you, Aaron.
I was going to say, whatever normal means, I would just, it takes a pretty strong stomach today to look at a portfolio of airline stocks, which are, as I watch the symbols go by, are getting hammered to hang on to those things. But the long view is what they always say you got to take, so the long view seems to make some sense. Let's go to the NASDAQ back here in New York. NASDAQ with lots of technology stocks. How are they holding up? We'll talk about that and more. Greg Clarkin is down there for us. Greg, good afternoon.
Sure, Aaron, good afternoon. We're looking at technology stocks holding up rather nicely in the markets, really kind of behaving as a lot of folks expected. We saw a big bout of selling right at the outset. That was expected. It drove the NASDAQ down about 110 points at its worst, and it's come off that significantly. Right now, the composite's off 78 points, the level of 1616. So we did see some buyers come back into the marketplace, and we were expecting to see some of those large institutions, the portfolio managers, the mutual fund managers, who were expected to sit out the open before making a decision as to what direction the market was going in. And it appears that some of those folks may be coming back into the market. Volume very strong today, and we have seen more buying than selling over the last 90 minutes or so. Now, as far as some of those big names that are really recognizable on the NASDAQ, let's check in with them. And you can see Microsoft right now down 6.3%. But again, the losses have stabilized, so it does look severe, but still we're not seeing any additional waves of selling coming in at the moment. Cisco Systems down 2.7%. This is a stock that has really come back this morning. It was off to about somewhere to 4 to 5% range so it's come back nicely. Intel down 6.6%, and again, the good news is that those stocks really have stabilized. We've been talking a lot this morning about the dozens of companies really that have come out and said that they will take advantage of those loosened regulations from the Securities and Exchange Commission and buy back their shares today in a big way. One of the biggest, Cisco Systems, they said they would buy back up to $3 billion worth of their stock over the next